Welcome to PhD&D on YouTube. What's up, everyone? This is going to be a little bit of a brainstorm. You and me talking about what ideas I have for my new setting, what I'm currently doing with the world building of it, and just how close are we to actually playing in this campaign. So, I'm sure most of you know by now, my newest setting is going to be called Candelure. It is called Candelure, I should just say that. It's in development, it's getting closer and closer to being ready, but we only have, based on some decisions in my other campaign, sorry if you can hear the mowers outside, by the way, but based on, decisions made in the other campaign, there might only be 3 or 4 sessions left of that campaign, and I don't want a bunch of downtime, between them. In fact, I'd like to be able to at most have a week off and then slowly get into the new one, with a prologue session, a character creation session, session 0, then the first session. So, there is still that break before they actually play with their characters, but at least every week we're getting together and kind of doing something. To break that down, how it's going to start is we're going to have a prologue session, which I talked about in I think they did a blog post or a video, I can't even remember now, on campaign prologues and how you can do that. So what I will do is I will use this online website where you can get pre-generated characters. That way I can just choose super high level, I can choose race, I can choose a class, boom, it gives me a character sheet, and I give that player that character. They're going to be that character just for the prologue. They're going to be able to take part in this really cool major story arc that kind of sets up the rest of the campaign. But that's the campaign prologue. Then the next session, they've already had a taste of kind of what the setting's like, some of the major things that have happened in the past in the setting, and then they can create their character. This is a session where we'll sit down together, I'll have the campaign Bible, as you call it, the Chris Perkins method, where I've got all the information that they could ever want, and I mean way too much information on hand. But the trick is, I'm not going to require them to read anything if they don't want. The stuff that I will encourage them to read will be a page, 2 pages tops, and we're not talking like 2 pages of text. It might be a table that shows, what the days of the week are called, or a couple important NPCs fill out the bottom of the page. So 2 pages tops that they're going to want to read over for sure, but they're more than welcome to dive into the rest that I've been doing. So that session will really sit down, we'll talk character concepts, I'll answer questions about the setting, because it's very different, and we're going to have a very different type of game than we've ever had. And for instance, we'll talk in a few seconds, we'll talk about some of those things, but what's different. But then we're actually going to roll 3d6, not down the line. They can allocate it to whatever skills they want, but I've decided 3d6. I'm going to have more opportunities for advancement in this campaign, so say they start out with a couple, 7s or 8s as a score. That's not a lot of fun when you have a lot of them. It can be really interesting if you have, 1 or 2 that are pretty low, but for those others that are really low, they're going to have opportunities in the story and during downtime to be able to improve those up, because I like them to be able to really change their character as time goes on. But if you start with scores of like 15, 16, there's not a whole lot, you don't want to keep progressing that up all the way. So 3d6 character creation at session 2. We'll sit there, create the full characters, take the whole night to do it, answer questions, whatever. Finish the night by coming up with connections between these characters. They're not all just going to meet at a tavern, although I will tell you, first session, game session 1 will be at a tavern. But these guys already know each other and there's a reason that they're there. So that session 2, like I said, character creation. In-depth, learning the setting, coming up with characters and their connections to one another. Third time we sit down is going to be session 0. This session, they might not know each other yet. This session, they won't have a whole lot of equipment. This is like you've seen a lot of other guys in the community do session zeros, where they actually, earn their equipment, or they do this whole entire, cool little adventure, very, very low level, just to get a gold piece, or just to get a sword, regular old sword. But something really cool to establish those connections that they came up with, and to have a little bit of history before we actually start session 1. So, 4th time meeting, session 1. This is when the campaign starts. This is when the stories of these characters, they know each other, they get together, we start the main storylines. We dive into their backgrounds, really start to use all of that, and they are mechanically level 1 at this point. In that session 0, they're not. They're going to be a little bit lower. They're not going to have all their skills and abilities and equipment. So this is really the first time they get to try out this character that they made to its fullest. So other ideas that I'm tossing around, class requirements. So bear with me here. Class requirements are like the older editions of D&D, and I don't even know which ones because I haven't played them, but you have to have a, charisma score of a 15, a wisdom score of a 12. Man, that mower's loud. Other scores have to be this level for you to actually be a paladin. Or you have to have a wisdom score of this or intelligence score of this to become a cleric, or to choose cleric as a class. So there's actual requirements for classes. However, it's no fun as a player, in my opinion, to be shut down. If you want to play a paladin and your 3d6 they don't cut it, you don't have those requirements, and you can't be a paladin for this campaign, that's not fun. So, this campaign, I'm toying with the idea of having class requirements, but if you don't qualify yet, you can either start out as another class and then multi-class when you do qualify, or you can actually start classless, and you can do some things at the very, very beginning to actually earn your way some other way into being this class. Let's say this order of paladins, your skills aren't high enough. That might mean that you failed your first, test or trial with them. So maybe at this point, you get some information that they need this certain flower from this really dangerous area to make this potion to heal one of their priests. You actually take off and go do that just to prove yourself to them. You succeed. That might be session 1 or 2 there. And boom, they grant you your wish. You can join their order of paladins because you did something else. So there's going to be other ways to be able to be these classes, but you're going to have to do small quests to actually do that. That's the idea that I'm toying around with. Like I said, essentially class requirements with ways around it. Other things, this campaign, just to give you a little insight into Candelure, it's got a very strange kind of religious setup that I'm still brainstorming and working out. So we've got the Dawn War deities from the Dungeon Master's Guide. That's what we're working with because those are like the big 4th edition ones. And those ones are... Okay, I'll give you a hint. Or I'll just tell you. The Raven Queen died. The Raven Queen died in our big epic tier 4th edition campaign. In our world. These epic tier heroes chose to... They had to make a decision. Go save the Raven Queen from Orcus, or pursue Starfire, this other big villain they've been after. And they chose to pursue Starfire, knowing full well that they just signed over Raven Queen's death. She's dead. At this point, Orcus is kind of in charge of her domain, which is really bad. I have no doubt, however, when that campaign finishes, that they will defeat Orcus, so on and so forth. So, this new campaign, Candelure, takes place 300 years in the future. So they've most likely defeated Orcus. But the Raven Queen's gone, and actually, we're going to start this campaign, and another deity, another major deity, has died. They're not going to know right away. At this point, another major deity has died. The gods have gone silent. They're not answering prayers. They are not granting power to, say, certain classes that pray to them. You know, the divine powers of paladins and clerics, that's not coming from the gods anymore. Any powers that they are actually able to still use are coming from this residual radiant energy left over from the Dawn War a long, long time ago. So certain areas of Candelure, they're not going to be able to cast these spells or use these powers. Certain other areas where there's more of that radiant energy, they're going to be able to. But the gods are basically silent. People are starting to turn against the gods. Some people say that the gods are silent because the people turned against them in the first place. It's this big mishmash. But divine classes are going to be very interesting in all of this. They're going to have a lot of disadvantages, but a lot of story advantages, we'll say. A lot of very, very, very fun things that they can do to affect the world around them. Other things that I'm toying around with is coins right now. I'm working on coins. So I've kind of decided to use copper, silver, and gold. We'll get to stuff above that, say astral diamonds later on. But copper, silver, and gold is what they're going to deal in mostly at first. We're going to actually do the copper and silver thing at first. We're not just going to make it easy and just go gold standard or whatever. Although I do recommend if you're a new DM to just probably use gold starting right out. Don't make it so complicated on yourself. But they're going to earn copper pieces for a while, then start to earn silver. Think of the monetary progression of like World of Warcraft, where it slowly progresses into how you're being paid by doing the bigger and bigger things. That's kind of what I'm looking at. Within the 7 kingdoms of Candelure, they're going to have like trade values. So for instance, Aldesta has the copper, I don't even know what theirs is, I have it written somewhere, the copper chip, or the copper, I'm going to actually find that and I'll be right back. Okay, so for instance, when they are in Aldesta, which is that the gnome region where there's canyons, desert, all that, there are copper tokens, silver solidus, and golden tenders. Those are worth, a certain amount, but that's what they deal in Aldesta. But if they want to head over, or head all the way up and around, to Alheim, which is the mountainous kingdom with dwarves, men, up there they're going to actually use copper inlets. They're going to use silver spheres and golden crowns. So it's still copper, silver, and gold, but they're actually different. They're not going to take a golden tender, which will look different. They're not going to take that up in Alheim. So you can actually go to kind of these exchange houses, where if you've got, depending on the values, if you've got 100 golden tenders and you want to trade them out for golden crowns, you might only get 80 golden crowns, or maybe you'll get 120 golden crowns. But there's going to actually be this exchange rate amongst these kingdoms. Not every single one, though. And for instance, there's kingdoms like Alheim and Stormfall hate each other. They will refuse to actually do dealings for a lot of different things. Like if you come in with money from Stormfall, it might be heavily taxed to exchange it, or they may refuse it outright. So working with coins right now and how that can be interesting. But I'm also toying with the ideas of like character advancement. I want there to be way more options. I don't want it to be you earn enough experience, you level up, pick what you want. I'd rather have all these options and be gaining things throughout the entire campaign. So I've toyed with the idea of XP budgets. to where as you earn experience points, you can actually pay those out and buy things. So you can, if you're level 5, for instance, and you have half the XP to get to level 6, instead of choosing to continue and wait to level up, you could spend some of that XP and unlock certain abilities from level 6. Like you could unlock proficiency in something, or you could unlock the use of an extra spell slot, but you wouldn't actually get like ability score improvements or more hit points or anything like that without a much bigger purchase in XP. So I'm open to ideas there. I just want more opportunities for customization. I want more opportunities for character advancement and customization. Like I said, I just want it to be more than, oh, you've leveled up, now choose. So, open to that. But those are some of the ideas that I've been tossing around with Candelure lately. I've worked on the maps. I'll have some of those posted soon for you to take a look at. Zooming in kind of on each kingdom and doing some work right now, but it's just becoming more and more fleshed out. And as I continue to do that, I have to also think of the relationships between these kingdoms. You know, if I change something in Stormfall, how does that affect Aldesta, or does it? So those are the things that I've been doing. And yeah, other than that, if you've got any feedback or ideas on any of this brainstorm, feel free to leave it in the comments. Like the video, subscribe if you want to see more, because I will have more stuff up on Candelure, including the next Races of Candelure on the Azrul Dragonborn. Anyways, thanks for watching. Have a great week of gaming. Realize that the maps are going to be completely free for everyone, whether you are a patron or not, but you can receive some perks, obviously, if you join up as a patron of the different levels, as you see on the website. So, if you have not already seen that, please